Did that not work?
I don't see recording.
Am I the host?
Yes, you should be. There you go.
That was
Okay.
delayed.
All right. So good morning. This is the Erace meeting for Saturday, October 1st. I'm Nancy Moore. I have been coming to Erace since June of 2007. And I am located in New Orleans. Let's see, where's my mission statement? Racism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show we are committed to treating fellow human beings with love and respect. Join us. Okay.
Land acknowledgement.
Yes, you can do the land acknowledgement because I don't have it.
Oh,
Do you
I
have
don't,
it?
I'm not in the same room.
Okay.
I can
Well,
go-
if anybody has the land acknowledgement, you can do that. I forgot about that. Because this is a lot of stuff to kind of get ready for.
Indeed.
It is. It's a lot. So I know part of it is that we are on lands of Native Americans or indigenous peoples. And I don't remember all of them exactly, but we want to honor the
I have
fact.
the land acknowledgement in front of me if you want me to read it.
Yes, please do.
Okay, we acknowledge that what we know as the United States is the traditional territory of indigenous people. Members of our group today are on the lands of the Takawa, Leping, Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Chitimacha in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Linyap and Pasquanaway, Maryland, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, and the Coahula and Mojave in Riverside County, California. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of this land through generations. We state our intention to continue that stewardship now and into the future.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Okay, most of you have been here before and you know the rules of the meeting. You raise one finger to get on the list. We go in order of the list. We raise two fingers. If we have a clarifying question is, I didn't understand what you meant by, or could you please explain further what you meant by? It's not to make a statement. We are respectful. There's no name calling. There are no personal attacks. 15 minutes before, we will have a wrap up and we will stick very closely to that today because like I said, I have to go somewhere. And I think that's it. We will start by going around and everyone introducing themselves. And then I'll explain why I brought the article, and then we will go into the discussion because it is now 10:07. So Marva, would you like to start?
Good morning. My name is Marva. I've been coming to Erace Katrina and look forward to this informative, lively discussion every Saturday.
Thank you. Okay, Nora.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nora. I'm in Austin, and I've been coming for almost a year and happy to be here.
Thank you. Stanton.
Good morning, Stanton, here in Austin. Been coming about 6 months.
Thank you. Marla.
Good morning, I'm Marla. I am in the New Orleans area of Metairie, and I've been coming for the last couple of years.
Thank you. Phyllis.
I am Phyllis. I'm in New Orleans and I've been coming since 2008.
Thank you. Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa. I am in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I've been coming for about 2 months.
Thank you. Pedro.
Hey, sorry about that. Hey, I'm Pedro down here in Austin, been coming for the last 3 years. And Teresa, I hope North Carolina's not getting hammered too hard by the storm.
Thank you. It's true. Louise.
Good morning. I'm Louise, been coming to Erace meetings for over 2 decades, off and on in Austin now, but started in New Orleans.
Thank you. Dee Dee.
Good morning, I'm Dee Dee, and I can't stay very long this morning, but I wanted to come for a few moments because I looked at the title of this meeting and this is a serious pet peeve with me. So I'm here for as long as I can be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm in Austin, and I've been coming since the summer of 2020.
Thank you. Jean.
I'm Jean Walker in Silver Spring, Maryland, near the District of Columbia. And I hope everybody's been safe during these bad storms. I've been coming for about 8 months, 9 months. Thank you. Look forward to hearing what Dee Dee has to say.
Thank you. Glenn.
It's Glenn Abdullah. I've been coming to Erace since 1994. Look forward to this morning's meeting.
Thank you. Bill. Bill, are you there? There you go.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. And Cindy's going to be joining us soon. I am Bill Ives, and I've been coming to Erace for about 5 years, and I learn something every time. And reflecting on the articles always causes me to think of things. So thanks for the article, Nancy.
Thank you. Marion.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marion Lagarde here in New Orleans in the Gentilly area. I've been participating in the Erace discussion since 1993. It's good to see everyone this morning.
Thank you. Greer. Greer. I think something's wrong with Greer's audio. She can come back. Cindy. Okay.
Hey, I was in touch, I was talking on the phone with my brothers in North Carolina where the storm came in, but their house is okay, no power, but it's still there. So that's encouraging. I'll get to go there next summer. Anyway, I'm glad to see y'all. Sorry I'm late.
Okay, thank you. There's a phone number, 504-723-2636. If you could introduce yourself.
Did that work?
Yes. If you could.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Cheryl here.
Oh,
it's
that's
Cheryl here. Cheryl Miller.
Yeah.
Here in New Orleans.
Oh, you're on your
Hi,
phone. That's great.
There's a plant sale. I'm sorry. I'm on my phone and I'm very excited to go to a plant sale this morning because I'm a big gardener. I've been with Erace and enjoying it since 2005. I was introduced to the group. This is a wonderful subject, Nancy. And probably I will just listen to everyone's wonderful comments today. And thank you for bringing this to light because it certainly is something that we all have been subject to lately as far as hearing a lot of stupid comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I brought this article because I don't know, it was last week or the week before last, Disney presented or released their trailer for The Little Mermaid. And I had been hearing about, it's been about a year that Halle Bailey was going to play The Little Mermaid. Okay. And so there's been a lot of talk and a lot of buzz about how can you have, the Black woman play The Little Mermaid. And the comments, well, then there were clips on Facebook and on the internet of little Black children when they first saw The Little Mermaid, that she was, oh, she's brown like me. If you could have seen these children and how happy they were to see a Disney character, a live Disney character, being portrayed by a Black person, and how happy this made these children. How could you have a hateful comment about that? But unfortunately, there were so many, it was just unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable, the comments and the lengths of rationale that people went through to say, I'm like, it's a mermaid. It's not even real. I mean, seriously. And so anyway, to go on, not only the Little Mermaid, there's a TV show out, Quantum Leap, that has been rebooted, and there's an Asian character playing the lead now. I was really happy to see that. I was never a Quantum Leap fan when it was original by Scott Bakula. I'm still not really. I watched it Sunday night and it still didn't really catch my interest, but I'm very happy to see that it's an Asian person playing the lead, because Asian people very seldom, as well as Latino people and other groups, get a lead role on network television. But I searched for any backlash about it, haven't heard a thing, nothing, not a peep, okay. Then the other thing that really got me was Lizzo, who is an entertainer. She played James Madison, okay. His crystal flute, and somebody wrote in and said that was a desecration of American history. I'm like, are you serious? She is a classically trained flutist. I mean, just the hate is just unbelievable. It's just unreal. I mean, where are you coming up with this stuff from? It's just beyond belief. So anyway, that's why I brought this article. And so the list is open. It is now 10:17. Okay, so who would like to give Teresa, Jean? Okay, oh, and also, which I didn't mention, I'm timing you 2 minutes, okay? Teresa, let's start.
Okay, thank you so much. When I started reading this article, I thought that they were going to, one of the included examples of a backlash would be John Boyega's portrayal of a stormtrooper back in Star Wars. That's the first that I remember. I know it's not the first backlash, but that was the first that I was like, really, people? In the great universe of Star Wars, what you can't believe is a Black man being a stormtrooper. It's okay that Yoda's green and Jabba the Hutt's whatever it is and all the other things. So I was surprised that that wasn't part of the list, but I know they couldn't have everything. But specifically talking about the first one, and you can't really go into the down the rabbit hole of logic, but talking about the Little Mermaid, how dare they, what does she get, a tan? And you think about that snide comment as if it's some pseudo-scientific, well, how can they have a tan if they're underwater? And I've actually had this stupid conversation before with Aquaman. How can they be? And I said, there's a lot of pigmentation in aquatic animals, and it has nothing to do with getting a tan. And I even said, these are hybrid humanoids. They're fictitious, but I was trying to get into the mind of the person who was just like, how can they be tanned if da 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 da? And I said, well, no one's asking how a clownfish got its coloration, right? Nobody thinking that it's tanned. And if you're going to go down that stupidity, pseudoscientific, whatever, then you should also question, how can Nemo speak English? Clownfish don't have vocal cords. I mean, it's the same type of, I'm going to try to justify my racism using some type of pseudoscientific logic. Did I hear the beeper for the 2 minutes?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. It's
Okay.
good to cut me off because I can rant for days on that alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Next, we have Jean.
I just had a comment about Lisa. Go to the Library of Congress and her name, and you can hear her playing the flute. And then Carla Hayden, who's head of the Library of Congress, a wonderful Black woman, she had invited her to come and play the flute. And also then Elisa wanted to play it during her concert, and they had a security guard, and Carla was there, and they brought it, and she was able to even play on stage. Isn't awesome? Just awesome. And you're right, I just couldn't believe anybody could be critical of this at all. So yeah, anyway, thank you, and I look forward to other people's comments.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Next, we have Bill.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks. This article reminds me of how stupid
Marla.
some white people are. It reminds me of a Tom Joyner radio skit when he was trying to explain stupid things that white people do. It's just ridiculous. And I mentioned last week that we went to the theater in London, and there were people of African descent playing all kinds of historical characters. The one was very striking. A Black man played John Churchill, who was the ancestor of Winston Churchill, in a historical play. And he had the gravitas and bearing to carry that role really well. It reminded me of the actor who was featured in this. I'm going to mispronounce him. Idris Elba, who's a British actor, who's an incredible actor. He has such gravitas. I saw him in The Wire, and I've seen him in other plays, other things. And he would be, I didn't see the movie, but he would be the ideal Norse god because he has such strength of character. And he responded, I'm quoting in the article, he said, "We have a man who has flying hammer and wears horns on his head, and yet me being an actor of African descent playing a Norse god is unbelievable. I mean, Cleopatra was played by Elizabeth Taylor and Gandhi was played by Ben Kingsley. So it's just ridiculous. But the London Theater, I may run out of time, but is being very experimental. We saw a Taming of the Shrew with an all-female cast.
Would you like to get back on the list, Bill?
I'll get back on the list, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, next we have Phyllis.
I want to address one of the characters in the article, and that is Rue from the Hunger Games. She is a character who in the book was written as a Black girl. And this is the quote when she's introduced. So Katniss is the main character. Katniss describes Rue as a 12-year-old girl from District 11. She has dark brown skin and eyes, but other than that, she's very like Prim in size and demeanor. Prim is Katniss's little sister. Katniss and Prim are white. And this was a YA book, so mostly young people reading it. And clearly, reading comprehension needs to be upped in classrooms. A lot of them focused on how she reminded Katniss of her sister and not the description that she has dark brown skin. as if someone of another color cannot remind you of a relative of a different race. So that is not a case where the character was originally written as white. That was just a case of people don't read and pay attention very well, I think. So Rue's, if you didn't cry when
Teresa.
what happened to Rue, then you're sad.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. Next we have Greer. Stanton.
Yeah, this is like ridiculous. But it goes to show you, even in mentality, people are gonna just be racist and ignorant. As many people in Hollywood that have been played by white folks who were minorities in America. And Angelina Jolie played Marianne Pearl in A Mighty Heart. Ben Affleck played Antonio Mendez in Argo. Mickey Rooney played Mr. Yoshino in a movie. Laurence Olivier played Othello in black on his skin. But nobody came out about, I mean, are fictitious characters that have no bearing. This is why racism is to the grave. We have people still buried in separate cemeteries because of racism. It's to the grave. So this for the cost in terms of people's feelings, worrying about whether the Little Mermaid are black. It's utterly ridiculous. That's it.
All right, thank you, Vera. Next we have Louise.
So for Lizzo, you could see the awe on her face as she.
You have a clarifying, hold it.
Okay.
Hey, Pedro, do you have a clarifying question?
No, I meant to just request to get on the list.
Okay, continue, Louise.
One finger, Pedro.
Yeah.
So Lizzo's face she was awestruck holding that historical artifact. And she was obviously like, I mean, she is an amazing flautist. And she was doing a trill, which I used to play the flute, and a trill is a very difficult thing on a flute. And yet she also moved her behind in a trill, and it wasn't twerking. I remember people were saying, oh, she was twerking. It wasn't quite twerking, it was moving. I mean, it was amazing. She's amazing. And I just want to say she really did have respect. There was respect going on there. So just to say that history was pooed on is rubbish. As far as the Little Mermaid, yes, those little girls, Nancy, their faces, I mean, if you have any heart at all, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing to see that they saw themselves represented. And what everyone else has said is ridiculous. Mermaids, what's that? They're not, real people. But I do have to say that I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and this wasn't in the article, and this wasn't about race, it's about gender. I was kind of a bit shocked when they put a woman in as the Doctor, and I was just like, wait a minute, I don't know about this, but she was fantastic. She did, you just get into the show and you understand the character, and she did a great job. So, I mean, it's ridiculous to say you can't have this or that as a character. You just go on their acting skills. So it's ridiculous. That's it.
Thank you, Louise. Next we have Marla.
Yeah. Wow. The caucasity of it all. Kind of what I wanted to say. But also, just thinking about how the media fuels these fires so much too, and that I think they honestly love to see the divisiveness of an issue like this, right? Because it gets all the clicks, it becomes clickbait, and everybody's clicking on it to look to see. And I just started reflecting more on inclusivity versus equity, representation versus equity, and they are not the same thing, right? Just because Black folks are represented in certain roles doesn't mean that there is equity. This is like bare minimum, and white people can't even take it. I don't know. I think at the very, very minimal, being white, to me at least, just means working on harm reduction. And I feel like there's so much harm in these comments and the anger and the hatred. So we've got to do better. I just don't know how. I would be curious to know what folks think as far as if there could be any kind of backlash from this. Like, when there is increased representation of Black folks in certain spaces like this, would there be the notion of white people coming back and being like, well, we gave that to you, how white folks, how we do that, right? We say, well, you got this and this, you don't need X, Y, and Z. Do you think that there is harm in that, potential harm or backlash eventually by having those, I guess the higher exposure of things like Ariel, a Black Ariel, for example, if that makes sense.
That's good. Thank you, Marla. Next we have Dee Dee, then Bill, and then Teresa. Anyone else want to get on the list? Okay.
Did you put me on? Did you put me on the list?
Yes. Okay. Let me read the whole list. We got Dee Dee, Bill, Teresa, Stanton, Pedro, Glenn, Cindy, Phyllis, and Greer. Anyone else? Jean? Okay. All right. Dee Dee.
I read part of the article. It didn't come through on my phone, so I couldn't read it until this morning, and I didn't get through the whole thing. But to think back, I find this very refreshing that Disney has taken on this kind of a position, because if you look at Disney's history, go through some of the older cartoons, and as socially aware as all of us are, you cannot help but notice in Peter Pan that Captain Hook is gay as he can be. Okay. And there's another one, Sleeping Beauty, the one that has the 3 fairy godmothers, and the middle fairy godmother has olive skin, dark hair, dark eyes, and she is full of piss and vinegar. Okay. And I mean, Disney's been sneaking this stuff in for years. And so now they have taken a stand, they have stepped up, and they're doing it. And the reaction that they are getting is what they wanted. They want small kids to say, Little Mermaid looks like me, I can move on. And they're a big company, and they're not going to take much stuff off of ignorant bigots. And there we are. The one thing that I mentioned, something that is a pet peeve of mine, is the way my husband watches a lot of movies that were made in the 30s and the 40s. And look how Black folks were portrayed in those movies. Okay, that is not a good thing. I was raised by chemists. I didn't have family members that thought like that, talked like that, and acted like that. That is not realistic. That is just the way they wanted it done at the time. And they need to get over it and do a Black Little Mermaid, because that little girl is cute as she can be.
And thank you. You want to get back on the list?
Nah, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Bill. Bill?
Yeah, Cindy has a collection of children's books on African-American themes. And one of the ones is most wonderful is a little girl looking at the portrait of Michelle Obama and her excitement in seeing the first lady who looks like her. So these things have significance. I started to say in the London theater, they're much more creativity. I mean, diversity sparks creativity. And the example I was giving, the Taming of the Shrew, we saw a Taming of the Shrew with an all-female cast. And the person who did the lead role, the male role, was a subtle parody of being macho. It was just hilariously funny the way she did it. And they also had, I didn't see this, they had a version of the Merry Wives of Windsor with an all-male cast. So they were being playful and experimental. And going back to the portrayal of John Churchill, the actor of African descent just projected, like Idris Elba, the gravitas of that role and made it very believable. I also want to say that with Teresa's coming, we need to update the land acknowledgement to include North Carolina. And the publisher of my daughter's book is doing land acknowledgements now too. So anyway, that was what I had to say. This article just points out the stupidity of many white people.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. Okay, next we have Teresa.
All right, I wanted to address the comment about Rue being written as a dark-skinned character in the book and how people just went ahead and imagined her as white when they read it, or some people did. And it kind of reminded me of what people already have in their heads. That's what they're going to project. Because once upon a time, I went to my niece's kindergarten class and I did like a little belly dancing workshop. I mean, I was fully dressed, but we had the scarves and little instruments and everything for the kindergartners. And afterwards, the teacher had the kids, and these are kindergartners, had the kids to draw and, write thank you letters, however they could express that. And I saw one little girl draw, and it I never got the writing that she did, but it was obviously me with kind of brownish skin, but blue eyes. And I looked and I asked her and I said, "Oh, who is this?" And she said, "That's you." And I got closer and I said, "Are my eyes blue?" So, even though she was there with me in person, she still drew me as a person with blue eyes. And, can't unpack that, but that was a kindergartner, making it different than what I look like. And as far as Lizzo is concerned, playing the flute, I wonder if people would have had the same reaction about her cleaning that flute versus playing it. Because in a certain role, okay, it's okay for a Black person to do one thing, but not the other. And that was something that the actor, what was it, Steve Toussaint, playing Lord Corlys very long in House of the Dragon. It's like, oh, it's okay when we were in Game of Thrones as the slaves and the this, that, and the other, but I'm one of the richest men in the series, and that's now suddenly unacceptable. So I know my time's up, but it's just like you're used to seeing that brown skin in certain roles, but no, you can't be at the top of the economic pyramid.
Thank you, Teresa. Stanton.
This article makes me so happy that I don't get on social media. This group is the closest thing I do to social media. The level of stupidity, as Bill said, is just mind-numbing. I thought we got over this stuff when Brandy played Cinderella back a minute or so ago. It was like 20 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe it was a bit of a controversy back then. And it's like, what the hell? I'm just really perplexed as to why this is a discussion. I mean, I get it, but I can't believe it's a discussion that has to happen and that there are so many stupid, hateful people out there. That's it.
Thank you, Stanton. Pedro.
Yeah, this article made me think of this really famous interview of Muhammad Ali, "Why is Jesus White?" And he's talking about, I'll put it in the chat, But mom, he says, Mom, why is everything white? You know, it's pretty entertaining. He says, what happened to black angels? He says, why, you know, why aren't they, why wait for heaven? He talks about Tarzan. He says, here's the king of the jungle of Africa, and he was white. And Tarzan can talk to animals, but the Africans that have been there for centuries can't do that, you know, the messaging there. Why was Miss America always white, despite all these beautiful brown women, he goes on to say, in America? All this world is white. The universe is white. The president, he lives in the White House. Everything's white. Angel food cake is white. And the devil food cake is the chocolate cake. He goes on, Mary had a little lamb with feet as white as snow. You know, the Snow White, everything good is white. He talks about everything bad being black. The little ugly duckling was black. The black cat was bad luck. He says, I was always curious. And he finally comes back after winning the gold medal in Rome. And he goes down into his hometown to a restaurant, and he won't, they're not going to serve this. The waitress says, we don't serve blacks. And he says, well, I don't eat them either. Just give me a coffee and a hot dog. But he couldn't get that in his own hometown. He was escorted out of the restaurant with the gold medal on. Anyhow, all of that is what makes up this culture that is so important to change. Thanks.
Thank you. You timed that perfectly. Glenn.
You know, the making of the Little Mermaid and Cinderella being was made into African American, and much of you see of so many stars now in Hollywood that are heroes, African American. That's Hollywood making up from the past, of what they've done in the past. The psychological scars that they did to a whole race of people, they're trying to make up for it now in the way they portray African Americans in movies and on TV. I remember watching Benson. You know, here now Benson, he's the one that has the intellect, and the governor and all of them are dumb. You know, but he is the one that showed that he is quick-witted. So that was excellent for our young people to look at and to feel and give them a sense of you know, that their minds can be just as good as white people or be better. You know, in this country, I heard maybe about 30 years ago about the angry white man. You know, I when I first heard that term, I didn't understand what it was. But that's what made Rush Limbaugh a millionaire, because he spoke to those people, and that's what Trump speaks to now. But over the years, these networks have been brewing that anyway. I'll get back on the list.
You want to get back on the list? Okay. All right, we have Cindy next. Cindy, is she here? Well, I don't see her. Okay. Next we have Phyllis.
It's okay. And you're so about the
Well,
book.
where is she? I hear a voice.
Cindy's
I'm here
here.
with Bill.
Okay, all right.
Her computer crashed.
My computer is acting up, and Bill told you about the book. It's a wonderful story. I'll share with you next time we're in person. It's beautiful. About the little girl seeing Michelle Obama's face. Thank you. Sorry to not be part of it right now.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay. Next we have Phyllis.
Well, I mean, I don't get the white people who get so worked up about casting like this, because I've seen plays that had creative casting, as it were, and I think it just adds more to a story. And the this is not a genre I watch a lot of, but the new Hellraiser that's coming out, I think next week on Hulu, the person playing the main horror person, I don't even know anything about it, is Jamie Clayton, who is a transgender woman. That character to me has always looked male. So, and Jamie has also been in Sense8 and is currently in the new L Word. And she's a very good actress. So
Teresa?
There might be some fussing about that from quarters. And in 2024, a new Snow White is coming out, played by Rachel Ziegler, who was in West Side Story and is of Colombian descent. So brace yourselves for that. And I just have to say, am I the only person, when you hear Lizzo played Madison's crystal flute, it sounds like a sex joke? Am I the only one? Maybe. It sounds like that's why they're offended, because she put her lips on his little man parts. So I don't know why people are so upset about that. I think Lizzo is gorgeous and confident and talented, and people might just be jealous. So and I want to really say gender plays a big role. I don't know if it was brought up while I stepped away for a minute, but like Ghostbusters, how the little boys got so worked up about, you know, an all-woman cast of Ghostbusters, and it ruined it. And anytime a female is cast as a superhero that has traditionally been male, they lose it. So they're just too sensitive. They need to, like, you know, grow a pair of something. Okay, thank you.
Teresa, did you have a clarifying question for Phyllis? Okay.
Yeah, and you're referring to the remake of Hellraiser. Is the transgender woman playing Pinhead?
Yes. The
Okay.
one with the pins in the face. Yes. See, I don't know much.
I love that costuming, but I just wanted to make sure that's the character you're talking about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Greer, Jean, and Glenn, and then the list is open. Okay, Greer.
Well, it's not just white people who are doing this. I saw people of different ethnicities who had a problem with it, who weren't just white. There was an Asian guy, his name was Simpak. He put on this like a mask face that, like, if you putting on a facial mask to peel off, he put on a black mask, and he was sitting in front of a screen with the trailer playing, going, making a voice like, "Mom, look at me on the TV." Well, this woman, her name, they call herself Aunt Karen, and she's on TikTok and some other forms of social media. And basically, they located this guy, found out that he was a law student at Northwest. The information up there where he was in school, a whole bunch of people called up there. He's no longer a student at Northwest. And see, it's just not white people doing what they do. There's a lot of people who are considered minorities, but they align themselves with white people and take on oppressing us as though they are white, while Asians remain silent when it comes to somebody doing something to them, but they'll join with white people in trying to oppress Black people. So it's more than just white people doing this. Definitely believe that. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Greer. Next we have Jean and then Glenn, and then the list is open.
Yeah, I don't really have that much to add. I don't watch movies. I don't watch TV except for NPR. And
Bill?
I'm just so happy to see this happen because I think it's important that our children are able to look at other, well, for white kids to see Black kids and Black faces and Asian and Middle Eastern. I think Sesame Street's been way ahead of everybody in terms of trying to be inclusive. And I know I'm into books, so for my great-grandson, I look for children who are books that are geared to African-American children, since he is a Black child. And I like the books that are multiracial as well for my great-grandson, who's only 4 years old, but he does like to read books. So I think the best thing that we can do is make sure that we come out and support all these efforts, all these movements, and ensure that they continue and get better. And, you know, we can't do anything about the ignorant white people and ignorant other people, but we can be smart and just continue to support the inclusivity of our cultures. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Glenn.
Yeah, like I was saying that the angry white man, and that includes white women too.
Idris.
That's been being fostered and nurtured for over 30 years, and it's come to a crescendo now. Yeah, when you look, and also the dumbing down of white people. Millions of white people are just so ignorant today, believing in the stuff that QAnon puts out. Don't even question anything. They're not even rational. These people who say that Biden is not the president. He stole the election. They're not even rational. So that group is probably where all this is coming from. I also want to make a statement of reverse discrimination. There are certain roles that African Americans don't want to see a Black man playing. We had a movie came out called The Nativity. That movie stayed in the theaters 1 week. If it stayed a week, nobody came out. Blacks did not come out to see it because it was all Black cast and Jesus was portrayed as a Black man. They do not want to see their Jesus as a Black man. They can't see that as being real, a Black man being Jesus. It went straight to DVD. And I don't think I look up the record, I guarantee you, the money they spent to make it, they didn't make it back. I didn't even look it up, but I can guarantee you that's what happened. And that's my opinion.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay. Clarifying, I got two clarifying questions, one from Stanton and one from Louise. Stanton?
Yeah, Glenn, can you repeat the name of that movie, please?
The Nativity.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
Activity, okay. We can only have two because Louise has one. You can make a statement, Marion, if you wish.
My clarifying question was, so you're saying that Black people don't like the fact that Jesus is being portrayed as Black?
Correcto, absolutely. I put my hand on the Bible. Correct.
All Black people?
Not enough to support a movie with it.
Okay. All right, Marion, would you like to get on the list? Okay. All right. We have, let's see, it is 10:53. So we have Bill, Beatrice, Greer, and then Marion. Bill.
First of all, I want to second what Phyllis said. about creative casting adds more to the story. And diversity adds more to our lives and our story. I love living in New Orleans with all its diversity. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But I also agree with Glenn about the dumbing down of white people. I got an email today, I can't find it, but it was, in essence, was talking about the Republican agenda. Keep them poor, keep them stupid, and so they will vote for us. And there were several other things, but I add one, this is bits and pieces. I remember we were talking about African people of African descent not getting their due. We saw the movie Race about Jesse Owens, and there was a ceremony honoring him in New York City after he won the 4 gold medals. He couldn't go in the front door of the hotel where the ceremony is. He had to go in the servants' entrance. And that was just horrible. So we have a long history of this. But we need to look at, I feel we need to look at diversity as a source of creativity, not as a source of objections. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Beatrice.
I think it's sometimes we think that an event that is to be entertaining is actually educational. So much of what we are seeing that we think is entertainment is really teaching something. And the question is, what is it teaching? If you have taken a character that is a fictional character like Cinderella, nobody was named Cinderella, and you have assumed that that person has a certain color, then that's a lesson that somebody is learning. And I think that everything that every time we show diversity, representation, whether it has to do with sexual orientation, whatever, whether it's race, we are informing people. And European American people need to be informed very frequently that America is not a white country. America is not a Christian country. America is a diverse country. We come from a lot of places. We worship in a lot of ways. Sometimes we don't worship at all. That is what this country is. And the more whether you've been, I hate to use the word dumbed down, but whether you are steeped in the idea that you and your causes are all that is important, and that everybody who has something has taken it from you and you don't have, whether those are the lessons you're learning from somewhere, we've got to be about the business of teaching other lessons, because there are too many people the kinds of people that responded to the different characters that were in the article, who are not able to see the world in any other way. Their aperture is so narrow and so small that that's all that they're ever going to see. And so education has to always be occurring. And as far as the color of Jesus is, it is unfortunate that people who do not understand what Middle Eastern people look like, how did Jesus hide in Egypt? He's white and with blonde hair and blue eyes, come on. So it's always educational. It's everything that we got to be teaching somebody a lesson, and you take it on you to be the teacher and teach it with compassion. But what we want to see as entertainment has to be, it will be educational whether we want it to be or not. You teaching somebody a lesson when you are showing that this fictional character has to be a certain color. No. Let's help people. It's sad out here. It's sad out here.
Yeah. It is. Thank you, Beatrice. Jean, did you have a clarifying question, or you want to be on the list?
Just, can I get on the list? Briefly?
On the list, okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Greer, Marion, and then Jean. Okay, we'll see where we are after Jean. Okay, Greer.
In watching a lot of the responses from the Little Mermaid trailer that were negative, I'm gonna say this. A lot of people who are white use their nostalgia to promote their racism. A lot of people are like, well, when I saw this or when I read this, it wasn't a Black person. So because you saw something at a certain time in your life, now it can't change. So again, they're using their own personal nostalgia and feel that it's acceptable to use it to promote racism. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Greer. Marion. You had it, Marion. What are you doing? Marion, you are on mute now.
All right,
There
there I
you go.
am. I know we're not supposed to discuss anything religious. I'm not going to get on a religious soapbox, but and I know we're not supposed to argue back and forth, but I have to say I'm not in complete agreement about this statement that all Black people, and to me that encompasses a lot of people, have a problem, would have a problem with Jesus coming from the Middle East, or that we reject anything that could be Black because we're full of this self-hatred. Over my shoulder here, I have two angels, and they're Black. And one of them her hair is cut like mine. And I bought the angel many years ago because she looked like my sister, my younger sister, Marcia. I named her Claire. The other angel is Bernadette. And then the middle that stays on the buffet year round, I have brown skinned Jesus and Mary and the baby. So this general statement that we are so full of this self-hatred of ourselves that we rejected. I mainly bought the statues because I thought they were beautiful, and I named them. So I think we just have to be careful when we make this broad statement about all people who share a certain skin color have this hatred. It is not. And then with society lumping more baggage on top of you, it makes it very difficult for you to want to be accepting of things over which we have no control. None of us made ourselves. We are where we are. I don't hate myself. I don't hate Black people. And I just think, even though we have this open forum here, we should be very careful about making these generalizations about a group of people who share similarities in skin color.
Okay, Glenn has a clarifying question, Marion.
Well, we as a race of people brainwashed?
He's asking you a question, Marion.
I didn't hear it. What did you say about brainwashed?
Well, we as a race of people brainwashed.
There has been an attempt to brainwash people as a race of people, but everybody didn't fall for the brainwashing, and I'm not one of them. I don't hate myself. I don't hate Black people. I love me. And I'm a people person. I don't hate any human being on this planet, and especially people that look like me. I love me, and I love other people that look like me. It's all good as far as I'm concerned. God did not make any mistakes.
Okay, Jean, and then we will start on the wrap up. Okay.
I just, if people are aware that Middle Eastern, North African people are petitioning the Census Bureau, apparently. They no longer want to be categorized as white. They want a new categorization, which would be MENA, Middle Eastern, North African. Because they said, we're not white. It's a different culture, different, different cultures and different areas. And that would support that Jesus was not white either. Anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you, Jean. It's about time that they did that.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. We're gonna start on the wrap up now. It's 11:04, and there are 4 people who did not participate in the regular discussion. So their wrap up can be 2 minutes. And that is Michelle, Marion, Nora, and Marva. So Michelle, if you would like to take your 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have really much to add as far as the conversation is concerned itself. You know, I fully embrace the diversity that Hollywood and other sources of our media have started very briefly here, or very recently to embrace here. So, you know, I feel like I'm playing catch up in my life as a white person about exploring all the media out there that includes people of color. You know, I was, as a child, that's, you know, when of the 70s and the 80s, and when we were just of the four major channels here that we were able to watch on television, and the media that was out there in the movie theaters, which was much less than it is today. You know, everything was whitewashed, everything was white, and that's just kind of how all of us white people were brainwashed into believing everything was. And so now that I've had my eyes open to all the different possibilities, and of course the explosion of the kind of media that's out there, it's just overwhelming at times. But I enjoy now seeking out things that are made by or are representative of people of color, and basically, like I said, playing catch up on all of that. I do just want to mention to people who maybe are not paying attention to the chat, I suggested I'm the facilitator for next weekend. And I suggested we watch a documentary that I've watched, if that might be some of interest to people, for the topic of discussion next week. I don't know if that's asking too much of people, but I just thought maybe I'd throw that out there as a different thing for us to do for a change. It's a documentary about, it's called Who We Are, A Chronicle of Racism in America. And it was released in 2021 to a limited showing here in the theaters, but it's on now on Netflix. So if everybody could maybe pop into the chat and see if that's something that might interest them. Of course, I don't want to limit it if people don't have Netflix. So that's the big question.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I have Netflix and I'd be for that. I could do that. Okay, then next, Marion. No, Marion, you already spoke, so you get 1 minute, but that's later on. Nora.
I don't have any more comments to add, and thanks everybody.
Okay, thank you. And then Marva.
I'm 75 years old, and I remember during my earlier years of education, I felt that self-hatred was taught at an early age. My encounter with the school books, I can remember being pictured as a character, Love Black Sambo, and the other storybook was Little Negrito. And I felt bad about that image was portrayed in the storybook. The skin was as black as crayon, and nobody's skin is that black. And big red lips, big white eyes to magnify the black skin tone, and coarse hair. I was curious about whether or not white school children and was taught with that book. Marion, did you experience the same thing? Early on, I couldn't explain it when I was 5 years old, and I just felt that uncomfortableness of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to everyone else who has had a chance to speak, and your wrap up will be 1 minute. Okay, and I'm going to start with people as the order that I see them on my screen. So I will be starting with Stanton.
Yeah, this just got me wondering after all this discussion of whether or not Jesus was Black because he was from the Middle East, being raised Jewish. All the figures I ever saw of Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they were all white people too. I know I look white because I'm assuming my ancestors were pillaged and raped over the years in Europe. So it's just a curiosity. I don't know what people in Sephardic synagogues see when they're in school, if they see a darker version of Moses and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, but I just, all of a sudden, I never ever thought about that until today's conversation. So I had to get that off my chest. It's a curiosity to me. Thanks.
Yeah, but that's what these discussions do. They raise your curiosity. It's what it's meant to do, to make you question and think about things as you've never thought about before.
Absolutely.
Very good. Wow. Teresa.
What a coincidence. I was going to talk about Black Jesus too. If you have access to HBO Max, I recommend the series Black Jesus. It's a lot of language and slapstick. I don't mind the language. Slapstick sometimes gets to me, but it is literally called Black Jesus, and it is written by the same creator of Boondocks, which is a series I'd highly recommend, Aaron McGruder. So it's basically Jesus comes back to Earth and he's in Compton. So that'll be my wrap up for this.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa. Pedro has gotten up, so Jean, you're next. Wait a minute, he's coming back. Okay, Pedro. If you could give us your wrap up, 1 minute, please.
Hey, thanks, man. Good discussion. Yeah, I just think really for me, the culture is so powerful, and it's of course attached inextricably to the great wealth divide. And so the great wealth divide own those influences, and it puts into concert the same influences that all these laws and, fake laws that are never, people like Malcolm would point out, we got these laws and the Supreme Court says this, yet we continue to do this and all of that. So I think that's really important to really study culture and its impact. And even though it is changing somewhat with these, like the story says, the damage that has been done in the decades and centuries before is going to take such a long time to heal and reverse. But so we just can't forget that. It's kind of an unconscious thing. So anyhow, thank you for the discussion.
Okay, you're welcome. Jean.
It's sometimes hard to have hope that we will ever become all-inclusive and that we will see race and we will see color and we will accept everybody for who they are. But we just have to keep hope, and we have to keep working at it. We have to keep supporting our causes. So, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy, and have a good week till next week. Thank you.
You too, Jean. I just want to tell you, I noticed you got your hair cut. It looks really nice.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Thank you.
Marion. Marion, you had it. I don't know what you keep doing.
No, I don't know. I got a headache and I'm not thinking too clearly. I really appreciated the discussion, everyone. It's almost unbelievable, but I know I'm living on planet Earth, that someone could take something so it's supposed to be enjoyable, a story about a mermaid who's actually not a real character, she's a fantasy character, and turn it into something that I consider to be unnecessary and ugly. It's the human beings on this planet never cease to amaze me, and to take something that is supposed to be enjoyable, and I know I'm repeating myself, and turn it into something that could be so ugly and hateful and mean spirited. It's just, to me, it's an abomination. So I really appreciated everyone's comments, and this was a very, very interesting topic for discussion today, everyone. Thank you, Nancy, for bringing it.
Okay, thank you, Marion. Louise.
So I think it's a no-brainer that Jesus and all of the other cast of characters within the religious books were, you know, darker skinned. I mean, where they're from, it's just obvious that they were. And I think it's really strange that, Jesus has become this blonde, blue-eyed person. But I don't know, I'm not going to do general, I don't think all Black people are offended by the fact that Jesus is portrayed as Black. I find that very hard to believe. And Teresa, thank you for that show. I will definitely look into it. It sounds really good. I've such a long list of things I want to watch, so I might get round to it this year, I hope. Have a fantastic weekend, y'all.
You too. Thank you, Louise. Phyllis?
Well, I just want to say the reaction dramas from Little Black and Brown Girls to the Little Mermaid trailer like made my week when those all were getting posted. It was just, I watched some of them more than once. It was just so much unfiltered joy, and I loved it. What gives me hope, though, is that these people get shut down and argued with, and well, shut down and informed they're incorrect. Like the guy who was like, the science doesn't support a Black mermaid. I'm like, there's no science involved in a fantasy character. And also get hope from a series like Bridgerton, which is doing a lot with diverse casting. And also The Serpent Queen was just started on Stars. It's about Catherine de Medici. I have a hard time saying her name. And there's a woman in it who is Black. And I think based on all the movies that only had the historical dramas that only had white characters in the past, unless there were slaves, I think we don't realize there was like travel and people, yes, Louise, that too. They were people traveled, people went to other countries, and so it's not unrealistic to have a Black maid in the Serpent Queen series, and also Samantha Morton. She's an amazing actress. So yeah, thanks Nancy for this topic. I appreciated the insights everybody had, and see you next week.
Thank you, Phyllis. Marla.
Yep, awesome discussion as always. I forgot to mention before, I did look at some of the comments, you know, we always have to go there. And just a little shout out to white folks who might be watching on YouTube. No, we can't be oppressed. No, there is no reverse racism. That's it.
Thank you, Marla. Glenn?
You know, we under brainwashing all the time. When you look at the arts, you look at just plain old commercials, you can see a movement now that are in the commercials to fashion your mind, how you ought to think. Everybody, almost all the commercials you see integrated couples. Yeah, and so many other different kinds of couples you see on the commercials. And when people can't admit that they've been brainwashed, they will never come from under it. The evidence of Black people being brainwashed, the evidence is still here. That's it.
Thank you, Glenn. Bill.
Thanks. This is another instance of racism wherever we look. Racism in movie critics. It's stupid, but I want to yield my time, the remainder of my time, to Cindy, who's sitting next to me.
We've had trouble with my computer today. It has now crashed, so we'll get it figured out. But for the moment, this was interesting. But you know, we don't do much with television or popular movies, or, I mean, like, I didn't even know most of the names that were mentioned, so I feel a bit ancient, out of the loop. But the world I live in has lots of Black and white and some others that I'm not quite sure what the blend is, but that makes it interesting. When I was teaching those others, which I couldn't quite figure out who's what, but it doesn't matter who's what. Enjoy who they are as people. Thanks.
Thank you. Greer.
Yes, over history and time and through conditionings, a lot of us were brainwashed, most definitely. And there are people who are coming to the light right now. But I'm going to say this. The reason why people didn't go see the movie that my uncle was talking about, it was called Color of the Cross. It was put out in 2006. That movie was only released in 29 theaters, which means the theaters don't count the numbers of screens. At that time, they had 37,765 screens in America that was showing pictures. And they only put that movie in 29 theaters. So it wasn't that Black people had an issue with Jesus. It was the fact that the movie was not put out there for you really to go see it. And even when it was released worldwide, it only made $85,000. So we have to look at the bigger picture instead of simplifying things so easy. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to make a picture fail and get a tax write-off as a movie company, the best picture to do it is one that's based on a minority, so you can take the loss and get a profit from that. And my question again would be, why would you make a Color of the Cross 2, knowing you made only $85,000 from the first one? So things aren't always as simple as they seem. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, girl. Okay, my turn. So some of the things that, well, one of the things that I wanted to also, that I didn't mention in the beginning, was I don't know if this is going to come to be or not, but they are considering Idris Elba is being considered as the new James Bond. Okay. Oh, I definitely hope that, because I mean, he is such a smooth character. I think he would make an excellent Oh, hell yeah, right?
Great
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, I think he would make an excellent James Bond. And James Bond, well, the character 007 is just that. That is a moniker of a secret agent or a spy or whatever. It's not an act. 007 is not a person. That is the name of the moniker for anyone who takes that position. So it could be a Black person. So people need to get over that. Also on Jesus, has anybody been to Peter Claver Church in Tremay? There is a picture, a huge picture of Black Jesus in St. Peter Claver, if you've ever been to that church. So I do think that Black people embrace Black Jesus. Also, Hamilton. Has anyone seen Hamilton? Hamilton is excellent. If you don't have the Disney Channel, I don't know if it's still on the Disney Channel, but that's how I saw it. It has been to New Orleans, but it is an all-Black cast that plays, Hamilton and George Washington and Jefferson and all of these colonial people, and they do an excellent job, and you wouldn't even pay any attention to the fact that it is an all-Black cast or Hispanic. It's people of color, because some of them are Hispanic. Also, I think that I did not have the Little Black Sambo book, but what I do remember growing up was the Black dolls. They were the ugliest little dolls. You would not want those dolls. Nobody wanted those dolls. They were seriously ugly. They did look like Little Black Sambo, and I remember I got one for Christmas. I don't remember exactly. I was probably in the 4, 5, or 6 age range. I can't remember exactly. Looking at that doll, like, what is this? I wanted the Chatty Cathy, the blonde, blue-eyed Chatty Cathy doll. So yes, to an extent, we were programmed to think that, blonde, blue eyes was, the ultimate perfection or standard of beauty. And the Little Black Doll was not, which was unfortunate. I really wish that I remember when Ariel came out, and I can't remember, it was 1985 or 1986. Anyway, Bethany would have been like 1 or 2 years old, whatever, but it would have been so nice for her to have seen a Black Ariel when she was little. I think that would have really done a lot for everyone's self-image and self-esteem, to see themselves represented on screen and whatnot. And I also do believe that when you see these things, it is a matter of control. That's what it is. It's like ultimate control. If I control your mind and I control your self-esteem and what you think of yourself, I can control your actions, your movements, your thoughts, and all of those things when I can control your self-image. Okay, so that is it for today. I guess